So Scott, tell us a bit about KiwiSaver. How does it work and how can someone buy a home with it?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, before the home stuff, it does bear mentioning that KiwiSaver is a superb product. Everyone should be in KiwiSaver to help save for their retirement. The other time that you can take your KiwiSaver funds out is when you're buying your first home, as you've sort of alluded to. What it means is that at the moment, if you sign up to KiwiSaver, the default amount is 3.5%. You can pay 4, 6, 8 or 10% towards your KiwiSaver. And your employer at the moment is obligated to pay a minimum of 3.5%, and that's going up to 4% in 2029. Now, once you've been in your KiwiSaver for more than 3 years, you have access to those funds to buy your first home. And that means that making an application to your fund provider, like, Booster or Generate or Fisher Funds, there's not hundreds, but there's a lot of KiwiSaver providers out there. And then they will approve you to use your funds for that purpose of buying your first home.
Right. And so, how would you apply for that? How do you know whether you qualify to use it, if you know what I mean?
So we take you through the process when you're here for your initial meeting. And it just means by contacting your KiwiSaver provider and saying, hey, it's Scott here. I'm about to buy my first home. Can you send me evidence that I'm eligible and how much I'm eligible for? That gives them then the go-ahead to go and do those checks. And very quickly, usually within a couple of hours, you'll receive an email back saying, hi, Scott, not only are you eligible, but here goes how much you're eligible for. And we simply take that confirmation from the KiwiSaver provider to show the banks on how we're making up the deposit funds to get to whatever deposit we're declaring for that particular customer. So it's very easy. And like finance, where you come in and you get a pre-approval, so then you can go and look at houses, it's very much the same with KiwiSaver. You're approaching your provider to say, hey, I need a pre-approval to know that when I need it, it's available. And then when you actually need the funds to buy the house and use it for deposit funds, your solicitor does most of that work for you. So part one, to get the pre-approval, it's simply you ringing up your provider to get the pre-approval, and part two is completed by your solicitor. And the reason for that is the solicitor is the only person that can receive your KiwiSaver funds.
That makes sense. So people don't go and spend it on something else. And are there any costs for the pre-approval from the KiwiSaver provider?
No cost.
No. Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, often houses are purchased by two people. So if both people have a KiwiSaver account, does that mean they can use them both or just one? Or how does that work?
And that opens up some other options as well, right? So yes, look, if two people are buying a house, then both applicants can use their KiwiSaver as long as it's their first home purchase. And the definition, funnily enough, is actually, have you ever owned land anywhere in the world? Because if you have, it excludes you from using your KiwiSaver.
Wow.
Weirdly.
That's interesting.
But even if there's more applicants, say, 4 people were getting together and they all had their KiwiSaver, then all of them could use their KiwiSaver to buy their home, right? As long as they're all living in the home. You can't use your KiwiSaver to buy a rental. That has to be a home that you're going to live in. And they do checks. They ring up to make sure that you're, living in the property, just to make sure that you're not using your KiwiSaver funds for something else.
Yeah.
It is an interesting one where one person's already owned a home before and the other person is a first home buyer. Just because this person has used their KiwiSaver before, it doesn't exclude this person from having access to their KiwiSaver funds, because technically it is their first home, so they can use their KiwiSaver funds in that instance.
Well, that's good. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then I've heard, around the grapevine about the second chance to use KiwiSaver. What does that mean?
It's probably the most misunderstood part of the KiwiSaver process, in that it sounds like if you've used your KiwiSaver before, you can use your KiwiSaver again. And it's simply not the case. If you've used your KiwiSaver to buy a house, you can never, ever use your KiwiSaver funds again.
So what does second chance mean then?
It just means that you're in the position of a first home buyer. So you can get access to the bank's policies around first home buyer policies. It also means that the second chance can mean you owned before, but you
Yeah.
didn't use your KiwiSaver. Now you're owning again, so you do have access to your KiwiSaver because you didn't use it the first time.
Oh, right.
You see the small definition difference
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So if you
Interesting.
bought one in 1960, clearly there's no KiwiSaver in 1960. So,
Yeah. Oh, I
and this
see.
is your
That's the
second
scenario.
time. And so
Yeah.
they say, yes, you're in the position of the first home buyer. You have access to your KiwiSaver funds because this is the first time you're going to use your KiwiSaver
I
funds to
see.
buy a house.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
the
That's
second
interesting.
chance. If you've
Yeah.
already used your KiwiSaver, you can't use your KiwiSaver again.
Yeah. And so would that, cover the scenario where, I suppose in that case, a more, you could just argue in the scenario, an older person who has bought a home in the past many, many moons ago, and then now they've been renting for, say, a 10-year period, when they come back to buy a new home, they could use their KiwiSaver and
They have to
theory.
go, because they've owned before, they have to
Mm,
ask to get the second chance. This is the weird
right.
bit. And they'll say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, well, you didn't use your KiwiSaver before, so now you can,
Right. Interesting.
even though
Yeah.
it's not your first home purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
really good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wee
Oh,
quirk. Like I said, it's the one that gets most mixed up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see many people in that scenario that you deal with?
Yeah, lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, I mean, KiwiSaver only started in 2007. So, it's
Yeah.
not 20 years old yet. So
Yeah.
people have quite easily owned property more than 20 years ago and now, since
Mm,
it's sold and now want to
yeah.
buy and use their KiwiSaver. So they
Yeah.
would be eligible to use their KiwiSaver.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then tell me, you mentioned offline, or hinted at some sort of visa restrictions or people that have, immigrated to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Tell us about that scenario and
Yeah.
what any restrictions there.
So you have to be a New Zealand resident to be
Right.
able to apply for KiwiSaver. And that's
Mhm.
just your standard residential visa. As soon as you've got your residence visa, it doesn't have to be your permanent residence visa. You can open a KiwiSaver account. But if you're on a student visa or a temporary visa or a work visa, they aren't high enough up the food chain in the visa sort of hierarchy to allow you to join your KiwiSaver at that stage. And
Right.
the only other exclusion, of course, is once you've been in your KiwiSaver, you have to have been in it for 3 years before you can access the funds for your first home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the only restriction. But for New Zealand citizens, they're already residents, so it's
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer as soon as. In fact, a lot of parents start up the kids' KiwiSaver when they're very, very young, way before they're working. And
Yeah.
the grandparents might throw $100 a year or something for birthday presents and put it in their KiwiSaver to help them with their first home buyer purchase.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. And then the last thing is, when people are using the KiwiSaver, do they have to use all of it do they
Yeah,
have to
really
draw
good
all of it
question.
out for the
Yeah.
deposit or?
Now that it has almost been around for 20 years, some of those KiwiSaver funds are getting right up there. I'm talking hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, you can actually nominate an amount. So to put it to its limits, you can't take absolutely every cent out of your KiwiSaver for the deposit. You have to leave $1,000 in your account. And the
Right.
reason for that is there's account fees attached to KiwiSaver funds, and they never
Yeah.
want to see you going negative because your account fees are now taking out all the money. So you
Mm.
have to leave $1,000 in there. But to your point, you can nominate an amount. So if you were one of those lucky people that did have $200,000 in their KiwiSaver, you could nominate that I only want to take 100,000 out of that, or 50,000, or 20,000. It's completely up to you. But
Yeah.
just remember, once you've nominated that, you've had your one go. The next
Yeah.
time you're going to have access
Right.
to your KiwiSaver funds is at retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that actually just triggers another question for me. With when you have like loyalty programs, let's just say air points, for example, you can gift air points to someone else, a family member to fly, to use to fly somewhere. Can you gift or like, for example, use your KiwiSaver to help, say, a child into their first home?
Yeah, really good question. And the answer, unfortunately, is no. So you can
Right.
only use your own KiwiSaver funds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting.
towards the purchase. Yeah, you can't nominate or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't touched on is there is a hardship grant type of avenue to KiwiSaver. So
Yeah.
if you can prove that, the wheels are really falling off, maybe you've unexpectedly made redundant or something, and you need some funds just to keep the wheels going, then there is provisions within your KiwiSaver provider to allow you to release some funds to help
Right.
you through that period. They're trying to make the sort of the bar or the level of hardship easier to get to, because, the hardship for a long time there really meant you were really on the
Mm.
doors of hardship. It was right
Oh,
there. They're trying to
yeah.
make that process a little easier because it was a little bit too tough there for a
Yeah.
while. Mm.
Yeah. Interesting. And I have heard a bit of data around that in this current economy, as in more and more people are
Yeah,
trying to work through that process at the moment. So,
yeah,
mm,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but look, the
Right, Scott.
summary of KiwiSaver is, if you're not in it, please, by all means, try and get in it. You're almost doubling your money with your employer matching the 3.5% if you've nominated your 3.5%.
Yeah.
And then you get a small top up every year from the government for putting in the minimum amount.
Yeah.
So it all adds up, over time. There's no
Mm,
silver bullet to retirement, and this is just
no.
another rod in the water, but it's a really good rod to have,
Yeah.
KiwiSaver. Yeah.
The power of compounding, right?
Oh, 100%.
Every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Every.
Like I said, there's a lot of people out there already have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their KiwiSaver because, they took it up when it started in 2007, and it's just added up all over those years.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right, Scott. Well, thanks for breaking KiwiSaver down for us, and really
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
If someone's looking to buy their first home or has any questions around how they could use KiwiSaver to purchase a home, how do they get hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest would be the website. It's got all of our advisors' phone numbers on there. It's got information on how to use your KiwiSaver. It's got calculators to work out what it's likely to cost you to have a mortgage. There's all sorts of information on the website. That's www.advancedmortgagesolutions.co.nz.
All right, Scott. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel.